Hello, everybody. My name is Edward Osredkar, and I'm the host of Edward Osredkar's Entertainer Chat. And today I have the awesome pleasure of interviewing both Marlon Darrah and Lin Zhu. So they're filmmakers, worldwide travelers, producers, directors, screenwriters. Both of them are involved in so many different things. So we're going to try to learn not everything, Marlon and Lynn, but just touch upon part of what they do because they do so much. So Marlon and Lynn, welcome to the show. And how are you both doing today?
Thanks
Very
for
good,
very
very
good
good.
indeed. Thanks,
Yeah,
Edward. Pleasure to be on.
Yeah.
yeah. So for inviting us here.
Yes, no, thank you for graciously accepting my invitation to be on the show. And we did a lot of talking at the Chandler International Film Festival in Chandler, Arizona. Shameless plug. I have to get that in there. That's where all three of us first met and started talking about the talk show. And here we are. Here we are. So usually when I start the talk show, whether the entertainer is like an actor, director, producer, writer, dancer, singer, whatever, I always like to know a little bit more about them, and I know my audience does too, about how they got into the business that they're in today. So I'll start with you first, Marlon. I've read on your IMDb page that you're probably the world's most traveled filmmaker. 45 years of award-winning production experience in more than 140 countries worldwide, 100 documentary, travel adventure programs, and dramatic movies. And you've even appeared on all the major television networks, including PBS, the History Channel, and the Discovery Channel. That's quite a list. When I was doing the research on both of you, I was really quite impressed on everything that you're involved in. So I'll pose this first question to you, Marlon. You do so many things. How did you become interested in producing, filmmaking, and also traveling worldwide to make all your films?
Well, thanks for that question, Edward. And it is a question that is asked often. How does one begin this journey of filmmaking for a life? And it's something that was very easy for me to get into and be committed to because when I was 12 or 13, we my dad got his first 8 millimeter camera. He won it like in a booby prize at some contest, and he didn't even know what to do with it hardly. So I took the camera and kind of kidnapped it and used it making these little backyard dramas, short 3 or 4 to 6 minute stories about just being a kid. We're doing some chasing around, sort of dramas, little things having to do
Okay.
with action, and so that's how I got started when I was
Okay.
very young.
So
And then
so
I
that
went,
so that was sort of like an early day uh in your early years, sort of like that was the first sort of your first edition of reality TV.
yeah, that's what it was, documenting our little lives in the neighborhood in Oregon, right? And
Okay.
so I
Okay.
was lucky to win a couple of awards in high school for these short films I was doing already in high school, and a
Hmm.
couple of very good teachers there, mentors, and I just kept going, since 13 all the way now, several decades later. But I always wanted to take a look at the world. I wasn't satisfied with just the small neighborhood there in Eugene, Oregon, and a very small town. I was raised out away from town even. I always like to say I was raised in an orchard. There are a lot of trees around, cherry trees, and
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I was
That's
going
sort
to I was going to say you'll have to explain that. I never knew anybody that was raised in an orchard, but I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah, exactly. It's an interesting comment because it really is true. We had about 10 acres of trees, cherry trees, walnut trees, filbert trees, and so it was like a separate world of exploration for me. So I was always
Okay.
out there doing things out in the in on the property there.
Okay.
And so
Oh,
yeah.
I've got to say, since you mentioned filbert, I love filberts. That's my downfall. I like walnuts. I like pecans,
Oh
but
God. Yeah.
filberts, I mean, that's the top right there. I love filberts. So
They're very good. And so I was picking those as a child. There are no child labor laws, but
not way out in the woods, right?
so I had to earn enough money to buy my first bike, things like that.
Okay,
So I
okay.
was filmmaking very young and playing music very young, piano, for example, and trombone. So I always had the arts in my mind and wanted to also, for some reason, travel a lot and see the planet. And we
Hmm.
had National Geographics, we had World Book Encyclopedia. So for some reason, I got it in my mind that I needed to go see the planet. And so I got out there when I was 20, right out of college, 21. I was already out there filming in Europe, especially. I spent a year in Europe
Wow.
filming on assignment for Runner's World magazine. That was interesting because Oregon is a big sports state for running and track. And so I was a long distance runner, so I was doing films about sports. And then I decided at 23 to get out of sports and focus just on geography films, be my own National Geographic, if you will. And so I've been contracted with 50 different companies to do their travel adventure films, promotionals, and then I would keep all the footage and make my own geography films and sell those through public libraries and things like that. And,
Okay, okay.
and I always wanted to make movies, and we can talk
Hmm.
about that. So,
So, you were first saying that you first got the camera uh, from your dad borrowing the camera. So eventually, like even like in high school, did you say earn enough money somehow to eventually say buy your own first camera? Say like when you were still in your developing years, like in high school?
oh yeah, very much. And there's a camera, 16 millimeter camera called a Bolex. It's a wind-up camera. And you
Okay.
get about 30 seconds per shot when you wind it up. So those were the days and the analog days of film. So I'd worked in 16 millimeter, bought the camera, went out and did a film when I was 20 called The Marathon about the Olympic marathon. And so that did very well. And Runner's World uh, paid me for that film. So that was my first professional job was with Runner's World magazine for 2 or 3 years. And then also Nike, I did Nike's first film. It's called Running Peace. It was a 30-minute show about the running revolution back in the 70s. That's how long this goes back,
Okay.
1970s.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it just took off from there.
Yeah, yeah, you were talking about Eugene, Oregon being like a small town, but you did mention about track, and I know every what is it 4 years is it they have like a big meet at the college out there for the Olympics, like the Olympic trials, right?
It is Olympic trials, and that was the story of 60 people, men compete to run in the men's marathon, yeah, in the Olympics, but only three will actually qualify.
Uh-huh.
And so it was a dramatic story about Frank Shorter, Bill Rogers, Don Cardong, the three runners that actually did get the top three spots to go to the Olympics. The rest have to go home. So it's a drama. It's an interesting drama over 20, whatever, 24 miles it is, 26 miles. I've
Yeah,
forgotten.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
26.
yeah.
And so it unfolds. We had 5 cameras. We just documented the unfolding of the race and their stories.
Okay, okay. So that was like a pretty in-depth coverage then, right?
It's a depth for a small film when you're 20, right?
Right. Well, that's yeah, that's quite impressive. I mean, to have all that going on at the same time at like they say
No,
at the ripe old age of 20, you know.
and that's without any kind of communication between the cameras. We
Right,
had,
right. None of
yeah,
these, right? Where you can call up and say, okay, move the camera, get a different angle on the shot, right? Something like that.
had to tell the different camera people, here's exactly what we want. We want you to be close to the runners. We want this other camera, a helicopter, another one following it on a bike,
Right,
to
right.
document them, that sort of thing.
Yeah. No, that's really
It's quite a
yeah.
good movie. Yeah.
Really, yeah, really impressive. And Lynn, your background is impressive as well. I mean, like I says, when I was doing research about the both of you, how what you're doing, what you have plans for the future, uh, you have quite impressive resume too. I was reading on your IMDb page, not only on Marlin's, but I read both of your IMDb pages, and I seen that your IMDb page lists you as a producer, a writer, and in the electrical and camera department, and camera department referring to your filming like behind the scenes for both of your films, Amazon Queen and for an Egypt Affair. So, and besides all that, you also, I was impressed with this as well. You have a YouTube channel page and it lists the films, explaining how the both of you film in
Yeah.
in all the worldwide locations, in-depth coverage for the films that you both make. So, I'll pose the same question to you, Lynn. Um, how did you become interested in, producing, writing, acting? Because you act as well, and
Okay.
behind the scenes filming.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thank you, Edward, for the question. My story is a little bit different from Marlin because Marlin wanted to be a filmmaker since he was very young. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a filmmaker, but I always like reading and writing. I'm always on the creative side. So, and when I was young, I read a lot, and automatically I start to write my own story. Privately, I write novels and poetries. And when I was in school, I was always editor for our class magazines. So then, but I started to write professionally since I want to work after college. So I
Okay.
was in-house PR and marketing person for the largest software company in China. I wrote all kinds of copy contents for our products, surveys, and company brochures and advertisement news release.
Hmm.
So I sort of practiced my writing skills since that, but it was business oriented. It wasn't like creative enough. And then I moved to the United States and I got my master's degree in mass communication, still marketing and PR.
Hmm.
And but after that, it was like economic depression time in 2008. I wasn't able to find a marketing job. Then I started to work for nonprofit on sustainability. I became like a manager to organize training programs between
Hmm.
China and US for sustainable development. So
Hmm.
that was quite nice and developed my own skill about program management.
Hmm.
So I managed the whole program and put financing, personnel, and curriculum and the logistics together, and also get the people through the whole training
Hmm.
So then I gained this like program management skills.
Hmm.
And after that, and I met Marty, and we started to do the documentaries together around the world. I like travel. And when I was in China in the fourth grade, and I read a book called The Adventure of Tintin. That is a very famous book from Europe. And it was from Belgium. It's about a journalist who travel around the world and resolve the crimes around the
Hmm.
world
Hmm.
and almost cover all the continents from Asia to Africa, America, Europe. So it was very inspiring for me. And since like grade four, and I start to want to travel as Tintin, that
Hmm.
journalist.
Hmm.
That was
So,
my role model.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like you really have a well-rounded background, like you were saying when early on there, when you couldn't find work like in the entertainment industry, filming and things like that, that you got more into the business side, so marketing, like you were mentioning. So that has to come or that has to be very advantageous and really come in handy with the both of you working together on film projects because uh, you're used to or you've been exposed like to the business side. So like they always say, we're entertainers, but there's a reason why they call it show business. right?
Yeah.
There's a business side of it that we can't, well, that we can't ignore. It's there, and it seems like you have a good grasp, like on the business side of what both you and Marlin do. So that has to help the both of you out a lot, doesn't it?
Yes, I would say so because it's I would say on the left hand I'm on creative, on the right hand I'm on business side. You have to have both to make happen, right? Because as a producer, the first thing you need to do is to secure the finance for your film. So
Right.
that's business. And you need to know how to pitch to the investors. You know how to follow up with them. And since you got funding, you need to organize everything together. And you need to be very strategic on your plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that is program management.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like even in the early years, I wasn't exactly in the film business, but I acquired all the skills related to the current job and through all different, industries.
Mm-hmm.
That's very helpful. And
Mm-hmm.
right now in the filmmaking, I'm mainly like screenwriter. I like to write stories since I was very young, as I mentioned. I was always writing, no matter what. No matter in school for the school magazine or like in the business and to write for products or privately, I write my own creative stories, fictional.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I'm mainly writing like my specialty is to write the one shot thrillers. I like those both genres. It's very exciting, very entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to have logic to put the story together, but you also need to have imagination
Mm-hmm.
to create a story and characters and
Mm-hmm.
people can relate.
Mm-hmm.
And also you need to have background knowledge about history and geography
Mm-hmm.
to make the story have more depth.
So you're
Yeah.
talking about you have to have imagination. So you must have to pull a lot of resources, like from your your acting background, because in order to be an actor, you have to have like a broad imagination. I know when I was first growing up and started in theater, it's like well, even before that, when I was a child, I used to have a big imagination. I would make up like stories out of thin air and play them out, and so like you were saying, you have to have imagination. So you sort of have to picture the story in your mind first when you first write it, or do you start writing and then the pictures come to you in your writing? How does that all work for you?
So it's a good question. So usually my story is inspired by my research on history or geography. Then I start to have this imagination about characters doing things and in this history background or in that location.
Mm-hmm.
And as I would say, pictures come to my mind first before I write. So
Mm-hmm.
I sort of can visualize my character do things
Mm-hmm.
there and they speak, what their conversation is. I sort of see it in my mind first and I write down what I see. That's how I
Mm-hmm.
create. That's how I write
Yeah.
those.
So like do the both like in your writing, I'll ask this question to you both there. Uh in your writing, does one of you complement the other? Like say like if one of you starts writing a screenplay and maybe you have like a dry spell in your writing, and so the other one kind of reviews what you've written, and then they give like their opinion and help you out. Is your writing like a collaborative effort together? Whichever one of you want to jump in and answer first, go ahead.
I'll
Yeah, you
start first
start,
and
you
then
start.
hand it over to Lynn. But Edward, what our strand of movies are have to do with adventure,
Mm-hmm.
international locations that are a little bit off the beaten track usually, because from the 40 some years of travel around the world, I wanted to come up with an idea of 10 movies in 10 years. Now that sounds arbitrary, but it has a nice ring to it.
Yeah, it's a good even round number, sure.
Yeah, 10 movies, 10 years, and they would be based on, at least from my point of view, the collaboration. I like to try to come up with the kernel of the story first, based on a great location. So, for example, we did one in Cambodia many years ago. Southeast Asia is a wonderful part of the world. Love working there. Love the people, the culture, temples, history. So we did a movie in Cambodia about four Americans getting into trouble there in Cambodia. And then the next one was based in the Amazon, because that was another very pivotal moment of travel in the Amazon for me, because it's such a incredible experience for any traveler to go up and down the Amazon or any part of the Amazon, because it's such a unique place in the world. So I wanted to come up with a story there, and just came up with a boat journey where tourists get into trouble with a kidnapping.
Mhm.
Two criminals board and kidnap the boat because they're looking
Mhm.
for money that was lost in the jungle. So
I
that was
I remember that. I remember we were sitting in the dining room of the Chandler Festival there, and you had your laptop out and you were showing. I was really impressed. You were showing me like all the posters and all the different designs for the poster, which one looked better, which one didn't, what colors worked, what colors. That was really impressive.
I love that creative interplay that we can have at these different festivals whenever we get together. And so I'm an okay writer, but not a career writer. And so I collaborate on the screenplay. And so again, the kind of give and take here. So I try to come up with 10 or 15 pages of a story based on my experience on one of my travel adventure documentaries. And then I often turn it over to a writer, like Lynn, or we've had other screenwriters in the past, but script writers. And then the dialogue is something I'm not particularly great at. And I think that that's obviously a critical part of, of any screenplay, is how convincing the dialogue is. And usually people speak in short sentences or partial sentences. So it's good to collaborate then with people like Lynn on these longer versions now of the story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yes, we do collaborate on the screenwriting. And for the first two movies, like Amazon Queen, Egypt Affair, and I think Marlin come up with most of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I did some for like Amazon Queen, and it's like what I did, I was trying to make the climax more dramatic. In the beginning, it wasn't, it was a little bit plain, and we feel like it didn't really reach to the emotional peak as the
Mm-hmm.
climax is supposed to do. So I
Mm-hmm.
changed that part and give ideas. That was for Amazon Queen. For Egypt Affair, and the previous writing was like, it was too much revealing in the beginning. It's supposed to be a suspense, make people guess.
Mm-hmm.
And but the first draft of writing is, the villain and all those conspiracy was revealed too soon. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel I wasn't thrilling enough or suspenseful enough. So I hide all those clues and trying to reveal less and gradually reveal during the process. And I think it worked very well because audience side, they really like the twist and turns.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
as the story reveal. So that was the first collaboration with Marlin for the first two movies. For Madagascar Gold will be our next project. And Marlin had this initial concept, and we're going to write a treasure hunt film in Madagascar. Then he wrote the part basically happens in Madagascar because he has been there for twice, I guess.
Two times.
Two times. I haven't been there, but I saw the documentaries he made. So I take that part and I write my own story. So because I wasn't there, so my imagination wasn't limited only by the geography there.
mm-hmm.
My imagination go much more wild.
Oh,
You know,
okay. Well,
so, yeah.
yeah.
So that I just complete that story and make it more like a legendary like story, based on all those movies and books I read before. It was all inspiration for me. Yeah, so that's how we collaborate. And I think each of us have
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
own strengths,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
we
Yeah.
try different
It
roles.
it seems like a nice balance, what one might be lacking or maybe hitting a roadblock on, the other one of you jumps in and kind of fills in the gaps that way. So yeah, no, that sounds like a great way to work. And you were saying, Lynn, that you use your imagination a lot, and then I was talking about before, like acting, using imagination, and you being an actor. So I should ask this before I forget. You're in filmmaking, producing, writing, everything. But how did you get involved in like the acting? From say like when you were younger, like maybe local community theater groups? How did you get into the acting?
I just got into the acting recently, and mainly right now I'm doing like background acting, and when I have spare time. And yes, when I was young and in school, we have like theaters. Sometimes I was always very interested in acting. Not only acting, I like to write story, and I become part of story acting in it. And I like all around experience, not only in acting.
Uh-huh.
So yes, just like you said, when you be an actor and you need to imagine and what you would do in that situation and
Right.
imagine emotion and you have bring it up.
Right. Create your own world just out of nothing, right out of thin air, like they say.
Exactly, exactly. I think imagination is always my strength and it just come to me naturally.
Hmm.
And so anything, as long as my passion is triggered, I always imagine things,
Hmm.
much more beyond the normal life. So, and if I apply it to the creating and storytelling, and I'm sure and I can create an image all people enjoy.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, and
So, you being both a writer and an actor, really, sometimes you can write yourself into a project, right? Thinking, well, gee, this project needs such and such a character. Oh, I can play that. So,
yeah,
does that ever occur to you? I'll write myself in the project, or
Yeah, I would say the character all has a little bit of reflection of my own personality. And more like sometimes, of course, they're usually more ideal than myself. And they will do some things I don't really have the courage to do.
Mhm.
And I'm not bold enough to do, but in the perfect world, and I will imagine if I'm the character, I would do those type of very heroic things.
Mhm.
So, and when our movie Madagascar go come out, you will see that character.
Our journey begins. 5 magical days and nights on the legendary Nile rivers. We'll visit temples and tombs carved in rock thousands of years ago. You'll eat and drink like pharaohs.
Captain,
Yes?
I thought it was just the four of us.
It's gonna be okay, babe. Okay.
This is Mr. Darius.
And this is the love of my life, Sophia.
This is the guy with the good life. Money, connections.
Jake and I were actually at high school together, old friends, and we met both of our wives in college too. Heard you and your husband earlier tonight.
He's very passionate.
And you enjoy that?
Is there any other way?
The woman which is unusual.
Beautiful.
For some men, no matter what they have, it's never enough.
But I'm married.
Every man will die for her.
It's going to take more than an apology to fix our marriage.
It's not good enough. This will go live on Fox News as soon as I hit one little button.
How much do you want?
$3 million.
I take care of the other issue at the same time.
You can live by our back door.
You stay right here with me.
We don't need her for our business. Let her go.
He has something that belongs to me. What are you gonna do now?
I think I may have an idea.
I know you're being blackmailed by your friends and the bastard Darius.
I saw you, Dylan. In town, with her.
You think I'm gonna leave that bastard alive? It's not part of the plan.
Here's your payment, Jake.
Are you turning on me now? For some men, no matter what they have, it's never enough.
The film that both of you have been talking about, an Egypt affair, a romance, a suspense, and I have to give this a plug because I was there when it happened. That you were nominated for the best feature and the best director at the Chandler International Film Festival in Chandler, Arizona, which we both were a part of, January 19 through 28. And so far, an Egypt affair, this was quite impressive to me. It's received approximately 40 international film festival awards. That's like amazing. And 35, I mean 35 nominations. And Marlin, you received the Best Director Award for this film at the Skiptown International Film Festival in Hollywood, California, of which all three of us attended with all of our other creative friends there. And that's where I first met the both of you. So it was sort of like a mini reunion when we got to Chandler, right? You know, it's like, oh, how you been in the last 2 months, right?
Yeah, no, that was very satisfying.
Yeah,
And
yeah, since we both seen each other there. So I'll pose this question again to both of you, whoever wants to jump in first. We've been talking a little bit about an Egypt affair. So is there anything additional that you want to say about an Egypt affair, about what it's about, or anything about how it was to set it up and do your research ahead of time, visiting the area. So,
I'll
so
jump in first and
yes,
Lily.
yeah, have it. You don't have to raise your hand. Just jump in. Just jump in.
Teacher. No, anyway. No, Egypt affair. I've,
Okay.
I've loved Egypt since my first trip there in the 80s. So it's been off and on going there over that length of time, 40 years. I think I've been there 10 times to
Wow,
Egypt,
wow, wow.
travel adventure shows mainly, and documentaries as well.
Mhm.
So I loved Egypt. No one in the world I can think of who's interested in history would not love Egypt. You've got to love Egypt if you're interested in antiquity. These stories of the pharaohs and the queens and the temples and the pyramids, of course, that activates every thinking person's imagination. And there's nothing more romantic too, by the way, than sailing down the Nile at sunset on a riverboat with the sun setting toward past the palm trees and down on the sand dunes. And there's just something incredibly powerful and romantic. There's a temple there in silhouette. There's something very special about that. And I knew that that would, of course, make a great story if you could situate a story of intrigue, something about betrayal of friendship, something about the meaning of love and lust, even, and set that on the Nile and see what you could do with that. So we first wanted, though, to do a movie called Chasing Nefertiti. And that's a more ambitious, Dan Brownish kind of clue-based treasure hunt film in a way, because it poses the question that the bust of Nefertiti, which is in Berlin, it's the most famous image of a woman in antiquity. It's in Berlin. It should be in Egypt. The Germans took it away in 1914 or something.
Oh, okay.
So we wanted to do a movie, and we still intend to do a movie called Chasing Nefertiti, where a young female archaeologist thinks that the bust of Nefertiti is still in Egypt, and then she's pursued by villains because she's onto some truth there. So, but we couldn't afford to do that. That's a $3 million picture at least. So we needed to do something with the money we had, something a little more inexpensively in Egypt. And that was Egypt Affair. And so that's something that was contained on a riverboat, plus visits to temples and markets. But we knew we could do that on a lower budget, but still come up with a incredibly impressive visual feast for viewers, because Egypt provides so much of visual background for us. And so we knew we could do that kind of movie on a riverboat with just 7 actors, for example, and a team of we went to Egypt with only about 20 of us, 18 or 20 of us. And then we had lots of support in Egypt.
Right.
The story kind of got evolved. I came up with a story just about 4 months before we started shooting, and the script was quickly written. And it kept getting refined. And even as you know, Edward, when you're shooting, the actors can come up with certain nuances in their eyes, face, gestures, and
Right.
certain script changes a
Right.
little.
Right. And the director will say, geez, I never thought of it. Go with it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
usually you take, at least for me, I try to get at least a few takes, 2 or 3 or 4 takes of what's on the page. Whatever is on the script in that scene, I try to at least have the actors maintain those lines for at least 2 or 3 takes. And then maybe on the fourth or fifth take, that sometimes the actors go, let me try something. Let me
Oh,
try
okay.
here. Give me another take, please give me another take. So usually if we have time, and again, time is money.
Right. I was just going to say that the money clock is ticking there in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an egg timer, the sand going through that. And so sometimes we had to say, look, we only have an hour for this
Right.
scene.
Right.
Whatever we can do, we have to stop in an hour and move on. So that was kind of a background for me.
Yeah.
Lynn probably has some ideas on that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Go. Yeah.
Yeah, so for the Egypt fair, and of course, it's shot in anything shot in Egypt is going to be great because it's such older civilization. Everybody want to go Egypt once in their lifetime, I believe, because it's oldest civilization we know so far on Earth. So, and we want to get a little bit touch of that, and also Nile is a very romantic river. And we have this love betrayal story happens on the Nile, so it's very interesting, and I think Marlin already told most of the story. We had a lot of challenges in Egypt, and because of how the government governed the country was, as you know, is different from here. So, but we have to get used to their rules, right? So I think the key is to find a local producer, a local fixer, and who know their rules can help us go through that. And we had a very good one, and we were very lucky, and and everything put together and beautifully eventually, even though there were so many unpredictable things happened in Egypt, but because everyone want to make this movie happen in our team, so they all did their best. So, and we got this beautiful movie. Yeah, I would see, my suggestion to anybody who want to make a film in Egypt is, of course, if you have tons of money, and you can pay, at every level, and things will go very smoothly. But if you don't, and you can still go with the experienced locals, and they will help you out. And don't be scared by the local costumes, and respect them. But also, they're all the humans are similar, no matter what country or cultural background they're from.
Basically, we're all the same. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you treat them with sincerity, and also with be friendly, and try to discuss things and in a peaceful way, and things always can be resolved. And
I'll bring up a point that Marlin was talking about the number of people in your crew that went over there, 20 people in the production. That was probably the absolute minimum that was required to handle all the different areas of the film, Lynn. Like 20, that was like the least that you could have in order to put out a good film.
Oh yeah, I'll jump in on that.
Okay, sure.
Generally speaking, I would say you could probably do it with 12, actually.
Okay.
12. If you have, let's say you have 4 actors. Let's say you have a budget of 200,000, and you wanted to do this movie in a great location like Madagascar, Egypt. You can barely squeeze that out. I mean, we had to take, cuts on what we were to get personally, but we paid everybody on the team at least some amount of money. And so you have to decide first how much you can bite off according to how much money you have. Budget is everything on this, as you know, because if we had $500,000, we could have made that much better of a movie, I think, slightly better, more action scenes, things like that. But for a team of 15 to 20 people, I think, Edward, that's generally what you want to go for as a minimum, because you have, of course, your camera department. You need at least 2 people there. You need your DP, who's operating the camera usually, as well as a focus puller.
Mhm,
At
mhm.
least two people there. Then you need maybe somebody handling all the media that's being recorded and make sure it's on hard drives safely.
Mhm.
Usually you want to have two people on sound working with you, sound recording.
Very important sound. I know I was involved in a project one time and it was going on right along. We were at the reading stage, not quite at the filming stage on set, but there were challenges with obtaining a sound person, and that held up the whole project.
You've got to, and that's for independent filmmakers. I think the one of the first things you have to think about beyond the story and the camera work,
Mhm.
you have to think about absolutely getting the best audio you can, because that's usually a giveaway. Number one is bad audio.
Yes.
On an independent film, if people have to strain to hear what the actors are saying, you're going to lose them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going to switch the channel. They're going to get rid of that show. They don't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
watch something
So
you
all
can't.
that money that you pumped into it has been lost if you don't have good audio.
Right, exactly.
Right.
It's a typical cliche of the chain. Whatever the weakest link is,
Right.
it go up. If audio is weak, that's going to be a bad
Yeah.
chain. It'll pull apart.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
actors, of course, have to be talented. You can't just go with your cousin or your
No,
or
no,
something
not
like
at
that.
all. No.
You've got to screen the actors, make sure they want to do this trip with you. For us, we have an adventure component to all of our films.
Mhm.
And so we try to choose the crew and the actors who are good travelers. They have to travel well, otherwise we're going to run into a lot of trouble as a
Right.
right?
Because then they won't be able to concentrate on each of their jobs if they're not experienced in travel, right? There's always going to be
Yes.
there's always something that goes wrong or goes awry in travel. I mean, it's part of the journey, like they say, part of the experience. But yeah, if you don't have crew that can bounce back from that and have experience, it's going to affect their work, which eventually affects the output of your film, right?
Show up in the picture.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's especially true. Usually the crew, they tend to work a lot of different jobs in different
Mhm.
states, sometimes out of country. But it's actors especially. I'm most keen about making sure that they've done a fair amount of camping, ideally, in their life, like family vacations where they are camping or travel alone through Europe or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be a big plus, because then, like you said, they can be nimble on their feet
Mhm.
and not
Mhm.
get caught up in, oh, it's raining, or I don't have enough time for my hair to look perfect or my makeup perfect. They've got to be accessible and quickly on an independent movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So filming that project in Egypt, uh, I can just imagine that you probably had a lot of challenges with dealing with the weather, like the heat. Is it like a hot heat, or is it feel like with humidity? Because I know a lot of countries in Central America, Nicaragua, for example, I was fortunate enough to travel there, last fall, and the,
Right.
the humidity was sometimes unbearable because if you're not used to it, you're perspiring just standing still and not doing anything. So is that the same thing in Egypt?
Fortunately, the days we picked to shoot our film was not in the summer, so it was in the February and March. So it was manageable, even though sometimes it can get hot in the middle of the day, but it's manageable. But there were some challenging on the weather, especially when we shot in the middle of the Sahara Desert, and it was a wind.
Wind is
Wind
bad.
is like blow our away. It's like just make you crazy.
Yeah, it can get to your mind.
Guide you in your mind and make you feel like you're concentrating on resist the wind, but you have to do your job at the same time.
Right.
That was hardest the day.
Right.
And we had to, all the actors, they stay in the car, and only when it's their turn to be out, they will be out. Otherwise, they can't handle the wind, but the crew and have to tough themselves out. They have to
Oh, okay.
wait all day long.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was very challenging.
Yeah.
In the Amazon,
Yeah.
for example, it's obviously very humid in the Amazon. So that was a challenge when we shot the movie in the Amazon Queen. Fortunately, we had a riverboat as a base, so we could kind of hide in the riverboat and not be exposed to the sun and the humidity and the insects and all that piranha. But
Piranha. Get me out. Don't let me stay in the water too long,
yeah,
right?
Humphrey Bogart leeches. Oh,
It's
anyway. Yeah. Oh, that was such a great scene in African Queen.
yeah.
But yeah, we definitely have to try to minimize the hardships for crew and actors, and we do our best.
Yeah. So you were talking about like the harsh wind there and the crew having to be housed in cars, when they weren't needed. Uh, how about the sand? Did that, like you were saying, you were filming in the Sahara, did that get everywhere, like into the camera equipment, like when the wind blew?
Yeah, fortunately, we designed it so we'd only be out for maybe 6 hours, like on a camel trip that we have in the movie. We were out there just for 6 hours, not only for toilet issues, but also sand, which can get obviously very much in your camera gear. It can get in your hair and your face and your
Yeah.
eyes. Fortunately, that day it wasn't quite as windy as other days we had out in the desert. So the camel day, we'll call it, was fortunately not too windy. And so we were able to keep the gear fairly clean in that sense. But it did get
Okay.
pretty dusty though.
Yeah,
Okay.
we only had one harsh day in the desert, which was a Jeep day when we shot the Jeep scene in the desert. So I think the camera crew they had a little bit experience before, so they had all those plastic bags. And one
I was
they
just going to bring that up if Yeah, I was just going to bring that up if you use plastic bags to kind of shroud the equipment when it wasn't being used, or like even if it was set up, say like a camera, of course not covering the lens, but was there a way of covering most of the camera equipment without like hindering the view from the camera lens? Did you do it that way, or to keep all those small particles out of out of the
Yeah.
equipment?
And that certainly is an available thing to use, especially if you're out in the desert for a long, long time. Like Lawrence of Arabia, they had to have special blimps to cover the gear constantly. Usually it was though we would just shoot and then put it in plastic right away or a nylon kind of bag. And ideally something that's a lighter color, either like silver or white, because if it's black, then it's going to absorb the heat.
Right.
We were fairly nimble in getting the shot and then getting it bagged up as quickly as possible. But it doesn't matter. It still kind of gets in there, and we had to keep constantly kind of dusting it off.
Yeah. So when you're filming, you don't film it shrouded in that plastic, but only when you're not using it, then you cover it up, right? Okay, because I was going to say if it's shrouded in plastic while you're shooting, the equipment, even like you say, it's a light color, the plastic's a light color, somehow some of the heat is going to be trapped in there and it'll probably ruin the equipment.
To this, and then like on the bigger productions, they have like almost air conditioned kind of things. But the trick is you have to equalize the camera, like in the Amazon. If you have a camera that's in kind of an air conditioned thing, you bring it outside, as you know, the lenses will fog up immediately. And that's a very cautionary thing you have to do when you're shooting in the tropics, is to equalize the camera in a plastic bag for an hour or two outside in the shade before you start shooting. Otherwise, wait for 20, 30 minutes before the lens defogs itself.
Right.
Some interesting things you have to be ready for.
Yeah.
But mainly too in the Egypt, we were pretty careful about how we handled everything, and we're scheduling wise to get them in and out as quickly as
Yeah, to
possible.
be as efficient as possible, so we don't have to be in the desert for very long.
Oh
No.
yeah,
We
you have to,
were never there overnight or anything like that. We'd always retreat to a room somewhere before we wouldn't be out there for like 3 days at a time or something. So.
Yeah. Well, you probably had to take some space heaters with you as well, right, at night when it got cold, or
It's cold in
You,
the desert. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
just like when we were in Arizona there last week, it's like towards the end of the festival, the weather improved, but then at night it still got cool, and it's like this this feels wrong to say you're in Arizona and for the night to be that cold. You know, it's like I could have stayed in New York State and been cold, you know, without traveling all this distance, you know, but
right.
they're like a desert environment too, so I guess that just
Absolutely.
goes with the territory, like they say.
That's
So,
right.
So there's another thing I want to mention. Actually, in both Amazon Queen and Egypt Fair, we managed to have a pretty good lodging for our crew and actors. Make sure they will rest well.
oh yeah,
They can perform well. So we, for both the movies and most of story happens on a boat. So we sort of have all the actors and crews live on the boat as well.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty safe and comfortable environment, I would say. So
Yeah.
make
Okay.
sure. No, I think that it's important, like you said, if you feel cold, you can't sleep at night. Of course, the next day will impact your work.
right,
So try to make sure it doesn't happen that way.
right.
Yeah.
Come on! Let's go!
Get the case. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure.
Change of plan. Put the money on the seat or I kill your brother.
Something happened to him. I'll track you down. I'll kill you. Shut the door. I put a tracker on the plane.
Are you gonna be able to get underway tomorrow?
She's burning hot, losing a lot of oil.
Okay, well, what if you make a patch?
Jack, I got it. I'll take care of it.
I'm gonna go pick up some customers.
Horas no escritório da Companhia do Rio Caro, uma empresa pecuarista com sede em Manaus.
What are you doing in Manaus, Flynn?
We got a tour boat company. We've actually got a boat running up the river tomorrow.
This ship has been my family for over 30 years now, taking thousands of passengers into the Amazon for a life-changing experience.
Stop moving! The plane must have crashed. It's in the river. What river? The Rio Negro. Expedition Cruises. Looks like we're going on a little tour.
Who are these guys?
They showed up this morning and paid in cash, and well, we kind of need it.
Lucky us.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to inform you that your vacation is officially over.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Do what I say, or bodies go over the side. Stop the boat.
Where are we going?
To the money. The truck's here. Let's go.
You're a fighter, right? Don't be one today.
The jungle always wins.
Right. Well, yeah, well, I'm sure you had a lot of challenges, like we've been talking about your next film, Madagascar Gold, action adventure movie, and I was reading that you plan to shoot that from let's see, in Madagascar and Portugal from May to November of this year, 2024. So in addition to all the other things that we've been talking about, Madagascar Gold, I don't know if you want to, either one of you want to elaborate more about that and the challenges that you faced, and basically what the story is about, Madagascar Gold.
Would love to. I'll start, and then Lynn can pick up pieces. Number
Okay.
one, why shoot a movie in Madagascar, right? The first question everyone asks is, why are you going to do that? You know, it's as far away as you can be from California and still be on this planet. How long
You
it
might
takes?
you might as well go to Antarctica, right?
Yeah, correct, right. Yeah, it takes 2 days of travel, jet travel, and overnight at least, maybe 2 nights to get there.
Oh my gosh.
One, that's why only a few hundred Americans at the most go to Madagascar, at the most. But if you do go, you are treated to the most unique wildlife, unique fauna, flora, and also people.
Mhm.
They're an interesting blend of Asian and African and some Arab in there. You know, there's a mixture of people. So no American movie has been shot there, which is interesting. So
That's interesting. I did not know that. That's interesting.
Building a cartoon, Madagascar.
Yeah, but yeah, you know those animated 3 films, but they were shot. You know, they're animated.
Well, yeah, they can go anywhere. They don't need any layovers, right? They can get there just like that. Yeah.
I was filmed in Burbank, but in any case, the thing with Madagascar, it's filled with mystery, intrigue, beauty. There's beautiful beaches. There's forests there. There's baobab trees. There's 100 types of lemurs. It's just a fascinating island.
Are there any animals that are like indigenous to Madagascar that you don't see anywhere else in the world?
That is, it's called the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay.
Almost all unique species.
Wow,
Because
it's like an isolated, self-contained ecosystem then, right? Basically.
is exactly that.
Wow,
And
wow.
that's why it has a certain photographic beauty to it as well, because you're seeing new things. I mean, we've all seen some documentaries maybe on nature shows on Madagascar, so you get an idea, but so few people actually go there. And so we thought, well, this is a great location. Number one, as an island, as a country, but the key story has to do with Captain Kidd. See, Captain Kidd and 1,000 other pirates used Madagascar as a base of operations where they would replenish water, food. There'd be women for the pirates there. So there's all these things that are interesting for the pirates. And they go out in the Indian Ocean. This is 300, 400 years ago, and pillage ships in the Indian Ocean. Come back, divide up the treasures in Madagascar on this one little island. That's where we're going to shoot this movie. One little island. It's an authentic pirate island, one of the few, if only, maybe the only one in the world. There's a pirate cemetery there. It's really intriguing. So if you just go there as a traveler, it's intriguing. But if you make a movie about this, it's double the interest, we thought. So
yeah. So yeah, I think Madagascar for me, because I'm a history lover, you know, the Madagascar has a real pirate island, real pirate cemetery, and a real pirate ship. It's all real. So, and before one of our friends who work with the History Channel did a documentary in Madagascar about Captain Kidd's ships. They actually found 13 ships in the shallow bay of the San Maria Island.
The remnants.
Yes.
Oh,
And
okay.
they actually discovered some like golden coins and some Chinese porcelains from the ships. So it was all real. So it really triggered our passion and imagination to tell the story. But the way we'll tell the story in a fictional way. But it echoes with a real history. So I think that attract a lot of people. You know, a lot of our team members, the reason they want to join this project is because they want to go there to see the pirate like ships, know themselves. It's like an adventure for them, in addition to the filmmaking.
Yeah, everybody wants to find gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that project, Madagascar, did you have like about the same number of crew that you had in Egypt? Was about the same number of crew members?
Projecting possibly a few more because we don't know yet. It's according to the budget, how many crew members we can have, and how many actors, how many we have to fly over there. It takes time and money, especially it's a like $2,500 round trip ticket to get to Madagascar and back. So all this will be determined according to how much money we raise.
Yeah.
And we're trying to find a name actor, at least a semi-name actor, to anchor the movie with. We'd love to have Kevin Bacon or someone like that as the villain, you know.
Oh,
Or
he'd play a good Bill. You
oh,
know,
he would, wouldn't he? Yeah.
yeah, he could make a very villainous face.
Oh,
Really, yeah.
he's a wonderful actor to watch, and comedic as well as being an antagonist. You know, he could be perfect for that. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I don't know if we can get to him and what the fee would be, things like that. So
Right.
actors we're looking at, especially for the part of the villain, you know, actors that are, you know, the 40 to 60 range, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say a little bit more about the story. So the story is a treasure hunt film. It's a little bit like a National Treasure, and the lead is a female, and she is in her 20s, and she operates a bookstore in Boston with her grandfather. But then because of the COVID hit, and their business is closed. So, and she need to find like new money resources. And also, since she was a child, she learned a lot of history from a grandpa, which was a history teacher in school. So she always want to find the treasure of Captain Kidd, which is a big legend in the East Coast, as you know. So then one day she found a clue and in an old antique book. Then she set out her journey to find the treasure, and she went to Portugal first. Then she met like a freelance writer, a Portuguese guy, and also a local tour guide there, and they team up together. But soon, and both of them are kidnapped by the villains. The villains want to, you know, force them to work with them because they also want to find Captain Kidd's treasure, and they have been doing that for many years. So then those two young people, and they have to pretend to cooperate with the villain in the beginning because they want to protect their family's life. And then, but later on, they get off the villain, go to Madagascar, and find more clues there. And then the story, you know, will revolve in Madagascar mainly. So it's a very exciting adventure story, and I believe young people, especially the young people, try to find their way to be succeed and to realize their dreams, will love this because it's not only a journey of treasure hunting, it's a journey of self-achievement for young people as well. And also has a real history background, and history lovers will like it too.
Yeah, I was going to say it sounds like a good adventure family, like a regular family film. You know, the whole family can enjoy, and I think it would encompass all parts of the you know, population, the young kids, the older kids, parents that want to take their younger kids to a good movie with a storyline. And
I like to describe it as a what happens next movie. You know what I mean? It's a simple phrase.
Right.
Next, you know, because you want to make it a page turner.
Yes, yeah.
But what's going to happen next? Because some movies, they just kind of, indie movies sometimes just linger and are slow, you know. We want to make sure it's dynamic. People are going to watch and not get bored.
Right.
And switch channels, you know. So
yeah, probably it can even be the type of movie with a storyline where you can leave it with a cliffhanger, right?
Yeah. They may have more adventures later. There may be sequels, you know, or something like that. So.
Sure. Sure. Just because this adventure ended and came to a conclusion and everybody ended up happy and satisfied with the outcome, well, there's something else on the horizon, right? So you could always.
Absolutely. There's another adventure following, possibly. And here's another thing I wanted to mention too, Edward, since we're talking just generally about movies. For any young filmmaker, I think the first question to be asked, and for us too, is why would anyone want to see your movie? That's the first question, Edward, I think you would ask as a filmmaker too. Who's your audience? Who's going to want to watch your movie? If it's just going to be a mumblecore movie about something happens in your apartment, you've got a drug problem, whatever, that's something that is done by a lot of indie filmmakers and not necessarily going to attract a big audience. We want to make sure that we have an audience around the world that can relate to the themes, as Lynn was saying, as we're saying. And why would you want to watch it? Well, because it's a great adventure, great location, excellent acting, wonderful photography, and it is an adventure that you're going to take with the characters.
Sure. You can, like with your movies, I mean, that's why you've had so much success with your films. I mean, not only the storyline, but like both of you have been saying that you do research in history, so it's good for history buffs. It's good to watch for people that love to travel, like the both of you do. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, like you were saying before, filmmakers that don't really have an exact idea of who they're
Yeah.
trying to reach. It's almost like what would you say? You're throwing like your net overboard into the ocean, hoping to catch whatever you can, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what I think it's not thought out sometimes much by filmmakers, especially younger ones or beginning filmmakers, is what's going to happen when you try to market this movie? How are you going to get people to watch it when there's so much competition? Like you and I and Lynn, we're all competing against a $200 million picture that could come out. Even if we have a budget of $250,000, we have to compete with the biggest studio pictures to get eyes on our movie. What do we have to say? What is the story? What is compelling about it? Why people want to watch? That's all we can do. And when we're doing a story is to try to think of how can we compete with these bigger movies.
What is your niche market? What is
Yeah.
your specialty compared to others?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
So yeah.
That's why horror films can be done cheaply by filmmakers and they can get some audience, but we
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, that's, I mean, especially like horror, that seems to be a very big market these days, right? I mean, the horror, yeah, the horror, suspense, thriller, that kind of genre.
Yeah, you don't have to necessarily have a name actor as long as you have enough scare, shock elements in these
Yeah.
movies. And I get that. We understand that it's just not necessarily what we want to do.
Yeah,
But,
well, there are a lot of horror films, I'm sure, or it's done beautifully or artistically, and but I don't like to be scared.
She doesn't
So
like
that's why we don't do horrors, and but I'm
There,
sure.
there's an easy solution to that, Lynn. When you get scared, just go like that or go like that. Close your eyes and then cover your
Well, I
ears.
probably will cover it all the time when I watch the film. Yeah. So, but I'm sure, and some people like to watch that. There's something there for them in the horror films,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I have really enjoyed talking to the both of you today. I've been looking so forward to this since we left the second film festival that we were fortunate enough to both be a part of, first Skip Town and then Chandler. And yeah, I'd like to thank both of you for being on my show. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and talk with you again. And everybody out there, like I was saying to both Marlin and Lynn before we started the interview today, I says, it feels strange. It feels funny to talk to them virtually like this in these boxes like that after having seen them first, I mean, twice, in person. Usually, if I have someone on my show, more times than not, it'll be virtually first, and then I meet them, and it's like a surreal experience. But this is the other way around. But I mean, still a pleasure to talk to the both of you. And yeah, thank you very much for being on my show today.
Yeah, thanks, Edward.
Thank you so much.
We enjoyed it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
We'll see you at another festival. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, definitely. No doubt our paths are going to cross again in the future. There's too many film festivals out there in order for that not to happen, So,
Yeah.
but
Will happen.
yeah, that's right. It will happen. So yeah, I'd like to thank both of you again. And everyone, my name is Edward S. Redcar, the host of Edward S. Redcar's Entertainer Chat. Today, I've had the absolute pleasure of speaking with Marlin Darrah and Lynn Zhu, and both producers, filmmakers, directors, entertainers, and we've been talking everything Marlin, well, not everything. Most of the things Marlin, not even most, a portion of the things, all Marlin and Lynn, because they're involved in so many things. So I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today, and don't forget to both like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Put any comments that you after this show will be uploaded to YouTube. Give me a like, a subscription. Post your comments in the comment section below the video when it's uploaded to YouTube. And until next time, and I'll wish all of you a good day and a good week. And until next time, we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, bye-bye.